Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today's going to be a super relaxed tutorial on how to create this hair particle system for our monkey Suzanne here, and how to create some really cool lighting on here and just a couple of cool details that you're going to want to know. Now again, this is not geometry nodes, guys. I repeat, this is not geometry nodes. This is just the regular hair particle system, but as you can see, it looks very good, especially when you have the proper lighting to kind of show those little details right there. It just looks really fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt to recreate this whole scene from scratch, and I'm going to show you guys every single detail as to how I made this. This original file will be available on my Patreon for those of you who want to just grab this and copy it to any object. All right, File, New. I'm going to go ahead and first off delete everything in the scene except for the camera. I'm actually just going to kind of reset my camera to the middle like I always do. I'm going to zero everything out, RX 90, and I'm going to bring it back on the Y-axis. Now I'm going to add in Suzanne here. So you guys don't have to use Suzanne, but I am because I think she's kind of the perfect subject to show different outlines and she's got some details to her. So I'm going to go ahead and add a subdiv to this. I'm just going to go ahead and shade that smooth, and I'm going to apply that. We'll just do 2 levels. That's perfect. All right, so we have Suzanne, so now we want to add a particle system, right? So I'm going to go over to my particle system tab right here, add a new particle system, click on hair, and as you can see, we now have hair on our scene. I'm going to go ahead and adjust that hair length. Now, if you hold shift while you adjust this, you can really finely adjust it, and now you can see all of our particles right here. The number of particles I'm going to be using is probably like 8,000 perhaps. We'll do that for now. Again, everybody's computer is different. Some of you guys, your computer may or may not be able to handle this. Let me go ahead and save this as Suzanne hair. Okay, so some of you guys are going to have computers that can't handle this, so just keep that in mind. Just be careful. Segments, I'll just do 2 for now. Now, there's going to be a lot of different things we're going to go into here. We're going to go into materials and hair settings. I'll probably just go over the hair settings real quick first. Under children, click on interpolated. Okay, and what that's going to do is kind of basically just give us more particles, and it's going to also render quickly, and it's not going to slow down your computer as much. And then we're going to go into, where is it, right here? I believe it's under children. Yep, under children, you're going to go into kink, and you're going to type in, or you're going to do, I think I did radial on the last one. Yep. So as you can see, we now have some very curly looking hair right here, and this is starting to look really awesome. And then there should be a setting for the actual, let's see, I think it's under render. Yeah, here we go, steps. Right now it's 3. You can bump those up a little bit on render, and then for viewport, I'll bump up the strand steps to 4. And as you can see, when we adjust these steps, look at what's happening here. This is 1 step. There's no curl at all. And then when I jump up these steps here to 4, you can really start to see those curls coming through, and this is looking really good. All right, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just lower my hair length a little bit like that. All right, let's actually start adding some lighting to our scene and some materials. First thing I'm going to do is go over to Cycles, GPU. I am going to add in a point light, and I'm going to kind of move it behind Suzanne here. Now I'm going to give this a value of 1,000, and then I'm going to snap to the camera so I can kind of see where it is. I'm going to move Suzanne off to the right side here, and I'm going to go ahead and take my point light, and I'm going to increase that radius a bunch. And already you can see we can have this really nice outline. Let's move our point light back into the distance a little bit, and let's raise this power to 5,000. That's starting to look really good. I'm probably going to give this one a slightly bluer light setup, and then I'm going to give the one in the front a warmer setup. So again, you can adjust your radius however you like. I think a bigger radius looks better. I'm going to bump this up to 10,000. All right, that's starting to look really good. Cool. Again, with your camera, I'm going to choose an 85 mil, and I'm going to just back it up a little bit right here and kind of position her in the scene like that. I'm going to duplicate my light source and put this one in the front, maybe right here. I'm going to drop that down to 5,000, and I'm going to change this to more of a warmer light. And then I'm going to lower that radius a bunch. Let's try 1,000. That looks a lot better. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on here. One of the things I wanted to show you guys how to adjust, you see how every single hair strand is very pointy? We're actually going to adjust that. So under your hair shape, you're going to see diameter, root, and tip. We're going to make those both 0.1. And as you can see, that now gives us an even width on both the bottom of the root of the hair and the top. So that's going to go ahead and fix that issue. And then another thing you guys can do is adjust the actual diameter scale. Right now it's 0.01. You can do 0.005 if you want. It's going to make those a little bit thinner. It really depends on your preference here. But right now, this is already starting to look really good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and give Suzanne 2 materials. The first material is just going to be her actual face. So I'm going to choose something like a little bit more dark brown like that. I think that's perfect. And then the second material is I'm going to go ahead and name this hair. And we're going to hop over into the shading tab. All right, so in our shading tab here, I'm going to go to rendered view. And in our hair material here, I'm going to delete the principled BSDF, and I'm going to add in a principled hair BSDF. I'm just going to plug that into the surface. And as you can see, it's looking really good. And then you guys can go ahead and adjust all these settings as needed. I think for like the actual color of the hair, I'm going to go for something a little bit brighter. And I think that's starting to look really good. Now, you're not going to notice anything until you actually switch this to that material. So again, you have to make your material on Suzanne or this won't work. I had to play around with that to figure that out. Under render, you're going to choose hair. And as you can see, now our hair is completely different. It really is being highlighted by these light sources here. I'm also going to bump my number up to 10,000 for the actual amount of particles. And this is starting to look really good. I'm also going to turn Suzanne a bit to this side because I want her to be like kind of looking at that second light source. Let's go ahead and hop into solid mode real quick. Tab into edit mode. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into a face select mode. We're going to highlight this and click L. And then we're going to hover over the other eye and click L. Then we're going to go to select, invert. And then we're going to go over to our material tab and we're going to click on assign for this material. And then we're going to go to select, invert again. So now we're selecting the eyes. Make a new material. Click on new and then assign. And go ahead and check that that worked and we are good to go. So now for this second material, which is now assigned to our eyes, and I'll label it eyes. Oops, eyes. There we go. We're going to just make that an emission shader. Now you guys can make this whatever you want. I just think it looks really cool when you do that. Now we have these 2 groups, right? So right now we have this group selected for our material. I'm also going to make a vertex group because I do not want to have hair on the eyes. I just want them to have their own material. So under this little vertex group panel right here, it's under object data properties. You're going to see vertex groups. Go ahead and click on the plus sign. Click on assign. You guys can name this if you want to. Go back to your particle system. And now go to, where is it? I believe it's children. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on a second. Okay, vertex groups down here. Where it says density, you're going to want to click on this. Now you can see that now just the eyes have hair. So what we're going to do is we're going to tab into edit mode, select the inverse, and we're going to make a new group called, I'll just call it hair only. And then we're going to click on assign. And then go back to our particle settings, and then we're going to actually select that group. And now we have hair everywhere but the eyes. And if you wanted to do the same for the mouth, you should be able to. It's just you're going to have to go ahead and hand select everything in there. So I'm not going to go through that, but I just want to show you guys how to decide where you want the hair and where you don't want the hair. All right, let's go back to the layout tab and go ahead and take a look at what we have so far. All right, this is starting to look really good. Another thing you guys can do is you can mess around with the actual hair system itself, and you can mess around with the, under children, this is like where all of your main settings are going to be. Like under clumping, you can set that to 0. Under the kink, you can actually set the amplitude of the kink to higher. So you can make these more curly if you like. And then for the clump, you can turn that down to 0. I kind of prefer a slightly less curl. Like something like that is like just perfect because then you can get that nice outline without messing anything up. And I don't know, this is already looking so good. I'm going to go back to my original file real quick. Go ahead and take a look at what I have. So, okay, as I suspected, I do have a floor plane in there. I'm actually just going to copy that. Go back to Suzanne hair. I'm just going to paste that right in. Now, what this floor is going to do is it's basically just going to reflect this point light and give us a nice gradient background. I'm also going to click on my camera and I'm going to go to my viewport display and I'm going to turn this value up, which is going to kind of narrow us in on our scene here. And that is pretty much it. There's really nothing else to go over in terms of like how to set this scene up. We have our hair system. We were able to decide where we wanted the hair, where we didn't want the hair. A really nice lighting setup, which of course you guys can adjust. Right now our background light is 10,000. I'll show you what it would look like if it was just 1,000. Again, you can make this more intense or less intense. I'll go somewhere in the middle, maybe like 3,000. I think that looks pretty good. And again, the radius of the light You guys can see kind of what's happening here as I adjust that. So just some things to consider. And then the actual positioning of the light source is going to also drastically affect the way everything looks, as you guys can see here. Something like that I think looks pretty good. And then with our second point light, if you guys move this along the, what is this, the y-axis, you guys can see that you can create some interesting contours as well. So I think I kind of like that right there, because we have some darker shadows right here that are kind of not able to come through, so you kind of guess what the geometry might look like there. And then you have some strong highlights. And if you decrease the radius of this light source, you'll see that we have a lot harsher lighting along the contours of the face. I prefer a slightly softer shadowed look, so I'm going to go with that. Now I'm going to click on Suzanne, go over to the materials. For the eyes, I'm going to give them like 5 for the actual emission. And everything's looking fantastic. The only thing left to do is a little bit of compositing, and we should be good to go. I'm going to go to the compositing tab, click on Use Nodes, and then on my bottom section here, I'm going to switch that over to the 3D viewport, snap to my camera, go to rendered view. Now, as you guys know, with the new 3.5 update, the real-time compositing has been finally released. And to enable it, you just go to this little button right here next to your viewport shading, and you're going to see something that says compositor down here. You typically, I would just choose camera, which means you're only going to see the results inside of the camera view, whereas if you click on always, you'll see the results everywhere. I'll just show you really quickly. If I click on always, and then I add a lens distortion node, and I set this to 1, you can see that that is immediately changing down there, right? Now, if I do this, if I zoom around in my viewport display, you can see that it's still working, which is great that it does work. But if you go ahead and change that to camera, you're only going to see that result in the camera. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be using this lens distortion node. I'm actually going to be using a exposure node and just making sure that the exposure level looks good. So I think I might just raise it just a little bit, just so we can get a few of those shadows coming through. And now I can kind of see the shadows a little bit more on the inside here, and I think this is starting to look really good. But with the real-time compositor, you can also adjust things like hue and saturation. Oops, that's hue, correct. I want to do hue and saturation. There's a lot of cool things you can do. As you guys can see, this is adjusting in real time, so you can pretty much play with different results before you even render. This is pretty powerful, so I'm pretty happy with this. What was that at? 1? I don't even remember what value this was at. I think it was at 0.5. There we go. And again, you can adjust the saturation. As you can see, you can adjust the overall value, I guess, the FAC. This is pretty interesting stuff. So there's a few nodes that aren't supported in the real-time compositor, but again, guys, this is what you get with the hair particle system. Eventually, I will go into the geometry nodes hair system as well. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I just want to drop this quick tutorial because a lot of you guys were asking me, Kenny, how did you get that glow around the character? This is how you do it. To be honest, guys, if I had any piece of advice for you when you're creating things like this, the most important thing is the lighting. Again, go ahead and enable this real-time compositor in your... You're going to have to do it per view. So like right now, we didn't have it enabled right here, so I just re-enabled it. You guys are going to want to adjust your lighting. So depending on the way that light hits the object, it's going to look completely different. I'll go ahead and just show you a real quick example. If we turn off this backlight, you're only going to get something like this. And if you like that, that's fine. But my point is, guys, look at the difference here. See, we have this much crazier looking scene without that front light, right? Now, if you really wanted to, you could get like a good mix between the two by turning down the front value a little bit, right? Like that doesn't look terrible. Maybe you could do something like 500 for that emissive strength there. Again, I'm trying to show you guys that lighting is super important, especially when it comes to stuff like this, because without this particle system, this is going to look completely different. So again, you guys can apply this particle system to any shape you want. I just thought Suzanne was perfect because she has a lot of different contours that we can take a look at where this hair is showing up. Now, right now, the last thing I'm going to do is just experiment with the value of hair. Right now, we're at 10,000. I'll try 15,000. Now, as you increase this number, guys, it is going to slow down your computer a lot. So I think I might just go with something like 8,000. Something simple like that, and then I'll go over and start rendering. So render settings, I'll do 150 samples. Denoising, we'll just do optics. Light paths, I'll just do 30 for everything. Looks fine to me. We already have our compositing, so we know that's going to look good. Let's go ahead and see what this looks like when we render it out. Now, actually, this is a good point here I'm going to have to make, is that you're going to have to double check your hair particle settings, because right now when we render this, it's not going to look correct, which is what happened to me last time. And the reason it's not going to look correct is because your viewport settings and your render settings are going to be completely different. So let's go back to our particle system. Now, under children right here, there is going to be something, where is it? Here we go, display amount and render amount. Right now the display amount is at 10. The render amount is at 100. So I'm going to lower that amount back down to 10 to match what we have in the viewport. And now if we render, we should be good to go. As you guys can see, the compositing has not taken place yet. This right here is the perfect example of why it's so powerful to be able to have that real-time compositor. With 150 samples, you're probably going to want to go higher than that. I can already notice that I'm not very happy with this render result. I'm also going to bump my dimensions up to 200 here before we render again. And for max samples, I'll do 300 this time. So let's go ahead and see what render result we get now. It's going to take about 1:30 it's saying, but I think it will take less time. I'm probably shooting for like 45 seconds here. But as you can see, when I zoom in, the actual quality of the render is much higher now that I've bumped up that resolution. And that's something that I try to preach a lot, is like, if you guys are having crappy renders coming out of Blender, try increasing your resolution and your samples. Although it'll take longer, more than likely you're going to get a better result. Even sometimes if you increase your resolution, there's the completed render. If you increase your resolution and then you go like 25 samples, you can still get a pretty decent render. Right now this is 300 samples, and I actually think it looks pretty good. I'm noticing a little bit of a glitchiness right here in the eye. That's probably just because I didn't select the vertex group properly, but again, that's something you guys can explore later. But I think this was a good tutorial. I think it was a successful one. We were able to create this really cool render. And the lighting trick itself is very powerful. So again, you guys are going to want to probably go in there and select like the mouth and make sure that there's no hair inside the mouth. But I didn't do that, but you guys can do that as well. And this is the little nose here. You can adjust that as well. All right, I'm going to go over one final thing, guys, and that's it. Sorry, I'm going to X out of this. There's one final thing I wanted to go over. Now, I don't personally like this method, but you can actually comb this hair back. Like, you can basically edit this hair. Right now, we're in object mode. As you guys know, we have object mode, wireframe, this and that. Up top left, we also have edit mode, sculpt mode, vertex, weight paint, texture paint. At the very bottom, we have particle edit. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and you're going to notice everything changes. Oh my gosh, Kenny, where did all the hair go? Relax. This is basically a preview of what the actual hair looks like. So what I can do is I can actually increase the radius of my comb here. And as you can see, if I click and drag, I can now actually adjust where the hair is kind of like headed here. Now, this is going to really change the way everything looks. So I'm just going to show you on a few specific areas like what this is going to look like. You can zoom in here. You can really get very, very detailed with it. And then what happens is when you go out of particle edit mode, so this is what it looks like in particle edit mode. When we go back to object mode, you'll notice that all that hair is combed back, right? So it's not sticking straight up like it was before. So let's go ahead and see what that actually looks like. So now it looks like a more groomed look. So if that's what you're going for, that's fine. I personally don't think that looks good. So what I'm going to do is go back to my particle system on the right, and you're going to see something that says delete edit. I'm going to go ahead and delete that edit, which was the edit we just made in our particle edit window. So right now, I'm very happy with this. This is exactly what I was looking for. This can definitely be used in a variety of ways. You could add some peach fuzz to a fruit. You could add just specifically areas on a face where you want to have some stubble. And again, you guys can easily adjust these settings as needed with the hair length and such. Like, I can go really crazy with this and we can have something like this, right? But again, that depends on what you're looking for. I think I prefer something that's a little bit more subtle, like that. Like, I think that's like almost perfect. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you learned something. I was really happy to kind of go over this. Again, I will eventually go over the geometry node stuff. I just haven't really gotten into that yet. So I'm just kind of teaching the stuff that I currently am using in a lot of my projects. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please follow me on Instagram. Please follow me on YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, Gumroad, Discord. All of the links should be down in the description below. If there's something you can't find, message me. If you guys have questions, put them down in the comments below, and I will respond. I respond to every single comment, unless it's just like, hey man, nice video. I usually won't respond to those. But if it's something technical that I need to answer for you guys, I will make sure that I find an answer. And if I can't answer it, I'll probably refer you to a specific tutorial, or I'll say, hey, sorry, I don't know the answer to this one. So, all right, guys, have a great day, and I will see you in the next tutorial.